And I was like, that's cool.
Massive welcome to the RaceFace Solidarity E-Race Pure Story Kyalami 24-hour Super Pole shootout. I'm Greg Maloney, the voice of choice, and joining me for this incredible event, the first time ever a sim race has been held at Kyalami, and for the first time ever a 24-hour in South Africa. It's great to have George G. Max Smith in the house with me, and Rai joining us all the way from the UK as well. Big welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Greg. So good to be here. I've made the transition over to the UK, but still got the South African ties and had to be part of this epic event. Of course, a 24-hour event in ACC. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy for the entire race weekend. But of course, Super Pole going to be even more epic.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be pretty exciting. I mean, you know, George, you and I have done quite a bit with RaceFace in the past, and you know, it's an honor to be here for for one of South Africa's biggest events that they're going to be hosting this year, and you know, possibly maybe in a few more years as well. But yeah, we got an interesting Super Bowl session coming up today.
To run through how the Super Bowl is going to work as well for all those people who have never seen a Super Bowl. It basically started at World Superbike level, and basically what happens is the cars have got one out lap, one flying lap to set one lap time, and then an in lap which they have to stay within at least 85 to 90% of the pace they would normally run on a fast lap. So the pressure's on. You've literally got one lap to do this thing. Your out lap will get your race face on, and then that flying lap is where you've got to do the business and get it all right. Hey, George?
Yeah, I mean, this is where it comes down to when you're qualifying for these kind of events, you've got the option to just grind out hundreds of laps if you want to. When it comes to Super Pole, that one lap counts. If you invalidate it, you go immediately down to the bottom of the order, and you have to rely on your starting position coming from your seeding time. So guys are going to be under pressure. I think everybody's put their best foot forward, put their most consistent or their quickest driver, a bit of a combination of the two, I suppose, into the car for the Super Pole lap. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I like these kind of seeding events. And of course, 3,000 Rand cash prize coming up to the winning team just for winning the Super Pole session.
That'll be quite tasty to have. Rara, to drop it to you. You've been involved in a couple of the events in the past with Bathurst, and I heard a couple of other famous race circuits that were thrown out in our banter just before this. And I was suitably impressed seeing that not only our top 11 or top 10, we got 11 drivers, but we got our top 10 for the shootout. But in the top 20, we literally had, I think it was 0.6 of a second splitting the drivers and the teams involved.
Oh yeah, I mean it's absolutely crazy. I mean we see it so often with these big events. You know, all the best drivers show up, and they bring all the best talents as well. There's some really elite teams racing all around the ACC community, and they've come here as well. You know, we'll get into some of those teams later on as well. But it's almost become normal to see them this close in a qualifying session at this level, and for a race this big as well. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the Super Pole session here today, all of the top 10 of the drivers could be within maybe 0.6 of a second, half a second, maybe what they are now in their practice. I would not be surprised if you know, if it's this close or closer by the end of Super Pole here today. And of course, that just means we're going to be in for an even better race in a week's time.
Yeah, I think next week is what everybody is sort of gearing up towards. They've had a couple of sort of a week and a half to do the qualifying sessions. They've learnt the circuit if they've never driven Kyalami before. George, from your side of things, those international prospects that have come through, it is fantastic that what we started during lockdown last year has moved on to something even more special. And of course, for the very first time in South Africa, a 24-hour race on a sim race.
Yeah, I mean, going towards that side of things, you know, we've always done things in South Africa. It's always been about, you know, just including local drivers, opening things up to the internationals, having people be able to, you know, enter this in their international teams. I think is going to be quite a difference for us to gauge sort of the local South African talent versus what's out there in the broader spectrum of sim racing. So I think it's always better to gauge things up against who are the very best in the world, and you can't determine that if you just lock it down to locals. So I like the fact that for the first time we are opening things up and allowing everybody to be all inclusive. And there might be some technical troubles and tribulations along the way, as this is what you kind of experience. This is what you do these events for. And for us, I think it's just a privilege to have some big names featured up with our local big names as well.
Ryan, you've been involved with those big names. Who are the big names we need to look out for this evening in terms of the list that's up on the screen?
Oh, well, I mean, there's some good ones from the international scene and from the local scene as well. I mean, one of the names I can pick out straight away is going to be Malinowski here tonight, Maciej Malinowski. He's driving for the Sidemax Motorworks team. And that Sidemax Motorworks team, they're going to be in the Audi here today. They're a team to watch. They have won the only 2 24-hour of Kyalami events that I know have ever been hosted in ACC's history. One of them by Racing Club International, one of them by Real Racing Club. And, Sidemax, they showed up, they won both of those events, and they want to make it a hat trick with this event here. And, well, they were on the front row of the grid for both of those events. Their goal today is going to be to throw their Audi on the front row of the grid. Jan Onorati is going to be another driver to watch as well from the international scene. He's, so much experience for Racing Line Motorsport. And, of course, William Hendrickson as well for the Jonna Lacey Esports Academy team. But you can't ignore the locals either. Jordan Sherritt and Ulrich Enslin are 2 names I'm very, very familiar with over on the international side of things. So, I mean, coming down to who are the contenders, even, just those 5 alone, it's such a stacked top 10, and we haven't even got onto the other half of the Super Bowl candidates tonight.
We spoke about the drivers, Georgie. We saw at the very first Solidarity E-Race we put together, car choice is pretty crucial as well. And I can see there's quite an array there. The guys have gone with the Bentley option, they've gone with the Audis, and they've gone with the Porsches. And if you look at the way things happened with Ulrich Enslin taking that very first victory in our Solidarity E-Race, the very first event we did, Porsche was probably the way to go. And of course, this is the home of Porsche South Africa.
Yeah, I think when we look at those kind of things, I mean, the BOPs and things have been adjusted slightly as the sim has progressed through the different updates. But yeah, Porsche and Audi is very strong on the circuit. I think there's a big field being chosen around that, and I think it's crucial to drivers to identify what is going to be the fastest here. They've had the time to put it in, and you've got to put your best foot forward. Like we said, your best driver's gone with who's going to be doing a Super Bowl lap, and you all have to be able to pilot that beast around the track. So I like the fact that we've got the same sort of mixture coming in. I like that there's a couple of wild cards, the Bentleys, the Astons coming through as well. But I expect to see a good performance from the Porsches and the Audis in the real race. And of course, in the Super Bowl, it's mostly Audis. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Audis can top the Porsches. I know Jordan Sherritt, when I was chatting to him a little bit earlier, he was just telling me what a beast it is to drive around this track, not quite as planted as he remembers it being. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get a solid lap around. That's the one that counts, and that's you're playing for 3,000 Rand at the end of the Super Bowl session.
I think the 3,000 Rand is just a little sort of cherry at the top of the cake, but more importantly is, of course, to have the honor of being on the pole position, and of course maybe the top. I think even the top 10 would be a good honor to be in, and already making it here for the Super Bowl is already showing that these guys have got exactly what it takes. Now, as I said, a couple of these guys may not have had the opportunity to drive the circuit in real life, but in sim, you've spoken about it, right? There's been a couple of occasions where the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit has come up as one of the big contenders in Assetto Corsa Competizione, and of course with you guys at RCI and all the other sim clubs and sim racing leagues that are happening around the world. Kyalami is certainly a fan favorite as well as a sim racer favorite.
I mean, to put it any other way, it's a fantastic circuit, and I was quite a fan of Kyalami before it came to ACC. I'd seen World Superbikes go to Kyalami back when it was in a previous form to what it is now. But I think as soon as this track came to ACC with with the DLC update that came out for the Intercontinental Series, this track gained so much love from the international, and the wider ACC community. I've seen people from other sims that say, "Oh, I wish iRacing had Kyalami. I wish R Factor 2 had, maybe a non-mod implementation of Kyalami, proper dev support, and this is a circuit that has attracted so much love from a lot of people within the ACC community. It's a personal favorite of mine as well. And, as a result of that, a lot of people do laps here. A lot of races get hosted here. And it's, of course, a circuit that a lot of people are familiar with. So when you get that kind of combination, some of the lap times you start to see around here are pretty incredible.
Now, those lap times are now about to get going because we're about to start Super Bowl. To give you an indication as to how it all happened for those people who have not watched up to now, basically we've had about a week and a half of qualifying. The top 20 were then whittled down to the top 10. The top 10 are now going to a Super Bowl shootout, starting in reverse order of how they finished in the qualifying sessions earlier in the week. So you've got your slowest driver of the top 10 about to go out first, and then we'll whittle away all the way down to the fastest driver from the qualifying session, each of them getting basically 3 laps. But the only one that counts is the middle lap. The flying lap in the middle of those 3 laps is the one that counts, and it's the only one that they're going to be able to get the lap time in that could possibly put them on pole position and get them the 3,000 Rand.
It's going to be crazy. I mean, that pressure being on means that you really don't have much time to mess about. You've got your out lap to just get your car up to temperature. You've got that flying lap, which is the one that counts. And then you've got your in lap, which is just your cool down, but still done at a decent pace that you don't get in the way. And Leslie Oliphant, of course, for Patterson Works Sim Racing, PWSR, he's going to be out on track first. His team had the best average time to put them into 10th place for the Super Bowl. So we're going to start from 10th, work our way down to first in terms of where they got themselves seeded. And it will be Leslie Oliphant to be the man behind the wheel of that Porsche to make sure that he establishes where PWSR is going to stand.
Ryan, I want to throw a question out to you while he's on his warm-up or on the out lap. How important is it to have the car set up, and how quickly do these Pirelli tires come into their own, and will he have enough traction having only done 1 lap of the circuit to get heat into the rubber?
Well, that's a great point, because the tires that they're going to be using here, they do usually take a couple of laps to get up to the optimum PSI. And what you usually find with a Super Pole session like this is that they might actually increase the pressure slightly above what they would usually do for a qualifying session, because what they want to do is they want to make sure that that middle lap that they're going to prepare for now is going to be at the optimum pressures. They might run, 0.2, 0.3 higher than usual to make sure that those tires are up to the optimum pressure much earlier than they otherwise would be. And of course, it's very, very important to make sure that your brakes are up to temperature, tires are up to temperature, and the car is feeling good.
So it looks like he's putting it all right as he comes out of Cheetah, heading into Ingwe, the final corner. Georgie's about to start this first lap. He's the first man out. The pressure must be extremely high. And of course, Leslie Oliphant has been at the front end of most of our Solidarity E-races that we've had in the past. So we're looking forward to seeing whether he can do more of the same.
Yes, we are indeed. Leslie Oliphant, talented driver. He features up at the top of a lot of the events as he comes through into turn 2, Crowthorne. And this man himself really has shown what he is about in the sim racing scene. Good to see him picked up by PWSR. Makes his way through the Yuxke sweep and out of barbecue and on his way to Sunset. But Greg, this man is a man of talent.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's got a great talent when it comes to sim racing. Got to actually meet him at the Kyalami 9 Hour. There was an activation done upstairs at last year's 9 Hour, which was really cool. And it was great to sort of meet the guys that I hadn't had an opportunity to meet while we were in lockdown. It's awesome to have Ryan with us as well. Rara, I've got to say, working with you, very professional, buddy. And I love the insight that you bring from all the way from the UK with my good friend, George. I'm sad to hear that you've made it all the way across the water. But I think a lot of people have made that trip, and we wish you all the very best in that trip as well. But Ryan, having a look at this first lap, looking pretty smooth so far.
It's looking pretty good at the moment for the number 10, and no serious mistakes that I've seen so far. And this is going to look like a very, very solid banker lap for a lot of these guys out here to beat today. And that's kind of the pressure that you have being the first driver out on the track. You've got to set the benchmark. You've got to set the time that everyone's going to be aiming for. It puts a target on your back, and that adds plenty of pressure onto you. But through the final corner we go, and out onto the main straight, looking so good. And up towards the timing line. The first time will be a 1:39.816.
That is a
I
good
have to
time.
say, for a one-lap run and to set a benchmark, that is an impressive figure.
That's a nice little run there, considering the fact that the qualifying times were 39.2s as the quickest lap that the guys are doing in qualifying. So he's right in that 39 bracket where he needs to be. So if he can remain up top there and nobody else can get into the 39s, that's not a bad start to the day's proceedings.
You know what? Often drivers come out here just trying to get a lap in because you kind of hedge your bets and think that somebody might make a mistake, invalidate their lap, and not get a decent time in. But I mean, that was an incredibly good lap coming out from Leslie Oliphant, and the PWSR team is going to be smiling back at the box. They love what Leslie can do, and under pressure, he's delivered.
So Roman now going to be making his way out now for the first time. First time we're seeing the big Bentley in action as well. This is not usually the car of choice, but if you look at what happened at last year's 9 Hour at the real racing stages here in Kyalami, at the Kyalami 9 Hour, the Bentley was at the front for a long, long time. And in fact, Jordan Pepper and his team led out for a huge amount of time. Unfortunately, had a little bit of technical issues, which saw them lose their position and eventually have to retire. But from a South African point of view, it was great to see this car in full flight. And it's good to see the car right now heading down to Crowthorne and going on board.
Roman Util just, of course, driving the only Bentley that we see in the top 10. This will be his flying lap to count. He's done his out lap, and he looks a little bit squabbly coming out of the Exeter barbecue, but keeps it between the lines on his approach up to Sunset now. This is a car that we don't see a lot of, but certainly very good on the fuel side when it comes to the endurance race stinting. So I'm going to be keen to see just where they do. They've got to put themselves up towards the top 10, exit out of Clubhouse looking rather wide, as of course the Bentley is wide itself. But so far, so good. Just got to get that car to the line, make sure that you stay competitive. I mean, starting in the top 10 is a prestige in itself, and up to the top of Leeuwkop for the left-hander, the hairpin, and making his way down to Mineshaft. So far, so good. Don't think the lap's been invalidated. And the All-In Racing team going to be watching this, biting their fingernails.
I think that's exactly what a lot of people are doing right now. They kind of seen what was set as the benchmark from Leslie, and now going to see if they can up the pace slightly, up the wick a little bit too. Ryan, it's not easy to do in these kind of situations. One small mistake can be a costly one.
That's so true. I mean, you have one shot to get it right, and you have to get it right. Here we see the number 9 Bentley is going to come up towards the line, and, well, it's going to be quite far off the pace, 0.7 of a second behind what Leslie Oliphant was able to achieve in the Porsche. And, well, it's not going to be the ideal lap time that they would have liked to have seen out of the Bentley, but as George mentioned before, the Bentley, it is more of an endurance car. It's going to be looking more forward towards the race, and being able to start in the top 10 is going to be pretty good for the number 9 Bentley at this point in time. But the next car we have out on track is the number 8 Audi of Tadej.
Even today in the first of the Audis, so flying the flag high there for four-sprung dirt technique. See whether or not they can do anything about that time that Leslie Oliphant has set in the Porsche. We did say there was going to be a bit of a battle between the manufacturers as well, and it's already started. As you can see, the Audis would love to be outgunning the Porsches here at their home circuit. You can see him working that first lap as well, trying to get as much heat into that rubber as possible. Now, a lot of people that will be watching this from the sidelines or watching it on our YouTube and Facebook stream won't actually realize, George, and we've mentioned it on a few occasions, and of course we're going to mention it probably ad nauseum a little bit next week as well. It is just as crucial to get the heat into the rubber in a sim as it is in real racing.
For sure. You've got to make sure that everything's dialed into the right levels. Ryan mentioned it earlier, teams running slightly higher pressures because they've only got one outlap to try and do it. But excessive braking, accelerating, and of course dragging on the brake pedal a little bit, trying to just generate as much warmth as they can into this flying lap out through the esters and up to the top Leeuwkop. And it's looking neat and tidy so far for today, as one of our other international entries tries to see where they're established. You talked about it, Greg. Good to see the benchmark between the Porsches and the Audis, and this will be the first Audi time that we see come out. I think the Bentley time will be knocked down that leaderboard. Looking at the manufacturers there, I think it will be interesting to see how the Aston Martin of Hendrickson measures up against it. And so far today, keeping it between the lines, the Exeter Cheetah not upsetting him too much. and the final corner of Ingwe then as he makes the dash down to the line. And we'll see just where Kevin today manages to stack himself up, and actually 8/10 off the pace and a 10th behind the Bentley.
Pressure's on, boys. The pressure's on. It's not an easy concept to do. Superpole always looks like it's an easy concept, but I can tell you from having watched it at World Superbike level here at Kyalami Grand Prix circuit, doing the live commentary on television as well as the live commentary at the circuit, and watching it, of course, with the Volkswagen Polo Cup here in South Africa, which also runs a Superpole aspect to their racing for the top six. The pressure is always on the drivers to perform, and of course, with only one lap to do that in, any small mistake, I mean, you might not pick up on it too much on the broadcast here, but the guy who's sitting in his rig at home or sitting at the desk, depending on what kind of equipment he's using, one little twitch, one little mistake is half a second up to 8/10 of a second, and that's what we're going to find now as we're seeing our next car out on track. And it's great to see Hendrickson pushing hard in the Aston Martin.
Slightly confused as to why William Hendrickson seemed to have stopped on track down towards turn 2. And as far as I'm aware, George, you may be able to correct me if I'm wrong on this. This was supposed to be their timed lap, was it not?
I mean, as far as I understood, it should have been their timed lap. I'm not quite sure if their driver pings are causing a little bit of chaos coming out here, but certainly would have thought that this was his timed lap to the line. We'll have to see what comes down, but I mean, they only had one out lap and one hot lap to do it, so let's just have a look and see what Hendrickson manages to do. Of course, the Jean Alesi Esports Academy, another big international team joining up for the 24, and we'll just have to track and see into Ingwe now and out of the final corner as he makes his dash down to the line. William Hendrickson will go over the line, and there we go. I mean, we have confirmation, 10 seconds off the pace, so that was a bit of a thrown away lap coming out from the number 7.
All right, you're spot on there. Coming down to Crowthorne, he literally pulled to the side of the circuit. Maybe something was going wrong, or maybe there was some issue he picked up, which we can't see, unfortunately, in his rig. But definitely capitalized, and you can see it on the time. 10.3 seconds off the pace is not where you want to be when you're up against the likes of these kind of drivers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal to put it that way. I mean, realistically, you're going to be starting at the back of the top 10 with a lap time like that, unless someone invalidates a lap. And, well, it's not great for the Jan Alesi esports team, but Jan Onorati, he will make his way around the circuit now for the Racing Line Motorsport entry. And, of course, as George just alluded to earlier, another international entry that is definitely worth keeping an eye on. And I mean, this is a team, George, that we know over the last 12, 14 months that there's some serious talent in this team. And Jan Onorati is not the quickest driver from Racing Line Motorsport, but he's definitely got plenty of pace in himself.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And when it comes to the endurance races, always a good team to keep an eye out on. You know, race isn't made up in the first hour when you're racing for 6, 12, 18, 24 hours. It's all about getting the car to the checkered flag. So Jan Onorati is a great entry, a great participant. And of course, Racing Line Motorsport as a team has just been featured all over sim racing. So good to see their entry coming through as Jan makes his way down through the mine shaft and down into Crocodile. I think, you know, everybody here will have seen Hendrickson's lap and be sort of a little bit relieved knowing that they can stack themselves up within the top 9 and not worry too much about pushing hard. But you want to win the prize money that's being put up for grabs for the Super Pole lap as well. So down to the line, the number 6 goes. Where does the Audi stack up? And they will go fourth fastest, 1.3 seconds off the pace, so 141.202 will be the best that the number 6 can do.
Another aspect that you need to bring into account with Onorati going out there, sometimes with these teams, which we find in some of the endurance races in South Africa, is they don't necessarily put their fastest driver in for a Super Pole scenario. They put the driver that has the best BMT, in other words, big match temperament, and the ability to possibly live up to what Super Pole is. So, you know, I mean, most of them have gone with their quickest drivers for sure. But Onorati, you were mentioning, Ryan, might not be the quickest driver in that team, but maybe he's got what it takes just for the Super Pole aspect.
Definitely a possibility, and something to keep an eye on. I would not be surprised if next week we see a very different driver start that car, a particular driver that I'm sure George and I already know the name of, and I'm pretty sure if we have some international fans here, they probably know the name of Kevin Saklari as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see his name in the starts for that car. But we have Lucas Kraser in one of the Sidemax Motorworks Audis. We have two of them here today, I believe. We've also got Malinowski, who'll be coming out later on. But two Sidemax Motorworks teams in the top 10 for Superpole. I mean, it does tell you a lot of what you need to know about how successful and how competitive this team is.
Yeah, certainly. I was very impressed with what we were doing during the qualifying sessions and watching what the guys were doing to get their cars set up right and learning the circuit, because I could see a couple of guys may not have participated in big events at this circuit. And of course, this is a daunting circuit to get used to. The undulations and the elevation aspect comes in. A lot of guys will also be thinking themselves, we're at a very high altitude, which means that the guys are going to take that into account as well, George. A lot of people don't realize that even when we speak about the heat in the rubber and the heat in the brakes, the engine capabilities need to be taken into account. And with the real Kyalami 9-hour that happens here with the Intercontinental GT Championship, a lot of teams got caught out with the altitude aspect.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for the sim guys, it's more about, Kraser over the line. Sidemax Motorsports up into third place, just behind the likes of the Bentley, and just 0.03 of a second behind Util there, but still Leslie Oliphant for PWSR sitting up at the top. So that's an incredible lap coming out from them. I think they've got a little bit more in them as well, but when it's up to Superpole, one lap counts, and that's all that you can do. As Stefan Wessels comes out in the number 4, a local racing team that is going to be competing, of course, and a little bit of an interesting driver lineup that we'll get to talk about more later on.
Yeah, so as he comes down to Crowthorne now, locals will be shouting hard and maybe looking for an opportunity to find someone to shout for next week. Because remember, everybody, next week from 12 o'clock Saturday until 12 o'clock Sunday, the 8th and 9th of May, we are kicking off the first 24-hour in South Africa in sim racing history. It's going to be an incredible event, courtesy of RaceFace and Solidarity E-Race, the Pure Storage Kyalami 24-hour. We've got associate sponsors back on board with NEC and Data Science Corporation, Oxide, RCI are here, and of course we are playing, or we're not playing, we're in the sim racing world, and this world of course is brought to you by Assetto Corsa Competizione, and it's the Intercontinental GT cars that race here at Kyalami that we're seeing in full flight now, with Stefan Wessels trying to fly the flag high for South Africa.
Got a lot of work to do if he wants to top that time from Leslie Oliphant, of course, PWSR. Also a South African entry, and I think that Leslie's banker lap, we can't even call it a banker lap, 1:39.8 coming out under pressure. There's going to be certainly some work to be done by drivers to try and top that. But Wessels coming down into the braking zone now for Crocodile as he makes his run up to Cheetah. Also looking nice and planted in his Audi. I love the splitter cam view as well. Gives you a nice understanding of the undulations and the change in altitude, like you talked a bit about, Greg. Some pretty big hills climbing up to the top of Leeuwkop, and the dash down to the line out of Ingwe. And we'll see where they stack themselves up to. They will go second, 2/10 behind Oliphant, 1:40.047, and that is also a blisteringly good lap under pressure.
That's a very good lap. Ryan, I like the way George put that. The undulations and, of course, the elevation here at the circuit. If you've ever been to this track, do it on a bicycle and you'll see how hectic it is.
Oh, yeah, there is plenty of change of elevation. And I think some of the best tracks in the world, have that good mix of elevation change. I mean, obviously, you've got Kyalami here. You have Spa, who... I mean, everyone knows the Spa-Francorchamps circuit has plenty of elevation change to it. Bathurst is also one of the best circuits in the world as well, and plenty of elevation change there as well. But we have the second of the Porsches out on track for Superpole, and it's Ulrich Enslin in the Tauro Porsche number 3. And this is a local name that I'm pretty sure George is very, very familiar with, and a lot of our audience will be familiar with as well.
Oh, I mean, who doesn't know Alaric Enslin at this point? He's been flying that international flag representation pretty high from the earliest of days that I got involved with sim racing. Found him out doing Trackmania when we first got into contact with one another, and I've just watched him grow and grow as a driver. Now he's formed up a team called Toro GG, and he's built a nice little driver list underneath him. So I'm quite keen to see what they do. And we saw his hot lap that he posted on YouTube. This man can certainly pilot the Porsche around, and it'll be interesting if he can do exactly the same here under pressure. I mean, Greg, you're familiar with Alaric as well.
We certainly are, and it's great to have him back as part of this Solidarity E-Race. He started, of course, with Solidarity E-Race at the beginning of lockdown when we started this concept, and was the first race winner here at Kyalami at that stage in an Audi, not in the Porsche. So he's decided to change allegiance in terms of his manufacturer's choice, but take nothing away because we have a Porsche at the top of the list right now. Could we possibly have 1 and 2 from Porsche as he comes to the line? Alaric Enslin, certainly a man who knows what to do at Kyalami. And is it good enough to go to the top? No, it's not. Second, but only by 1/10 of a second there. Unbelievable. Porsche's 1 and 2, Oliphant and Enslin. Now, Ryan, I'm going to throw something towards you now. We've got 2 more drivers still to come out. One of them is an international, superstar. One is a local superstar. And with Oliphant's 39.8 that he set at the start of this, is it possibly going to be on a similar vein to what we used to see in World Superbikes with Troy Corsa, where he was the man to beat and would go out and literally blitz the pace and try and get everybody else to try and find a way to close that pace down and possibly spoil his day? Right now, it doesn't look like anybody can spoil Oliphant's day.
It doesn't look like it at the moment, but I tell you what, if there's 2 drivers on this grid that could spoil it, Maciej Malinowski and Jordan Sherritt would be, well, 2 of the perfect candidates. And like I said, Maciej Malinowski driving for the Sidemax Motorworks Audi team. This is the team that have won the only 2 24 hours of Kyalami that have ever been hosted on ACC. They're looking for a hat trick next weekend. They've put it on the front row of the grid for the other 2 24-hour of Kyalami races that they were participating in. So if Malinowski can throw this car on the front row of the grid, they'll keep that record up for 24 hours of Kyalami, and of course it will put them in a fantastic position to start the race in a week's time. And Malinowski he's fairly new to this team, to be fair. He only started joining them just about a few months ago for some rather serious races in some other communities like SimGrid and, well, now in RCI as well. And it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts to this Sidemax Motorworks team. But there's plenty of quality in this team. Killian Ryan and George Boothby, just to name 2 of the very popular international names.
And those 2 are very much right up there when it comes to international prospects that could be at the front of this race by the end of 24 hours. Georgie taking him to the line now. Looks like Malinowski's on a great lap here.
It does look good. It's the timing that we need to see as we don't get split time updates. A little bit wide coming out to Cheetah there, not hitting the inside curb and getting sent to the moon at least. So it's looking dialed in. A little bit wide as well coming out of Ingwe, using all the track available, and the jump down to the line will go pole, a 139.7, and that is incredibly quick coming out from Maciej Malinowski. Sidemax Motorsports up in pole position temporarily. Can Jordan Sherritt and the GTWR team better this? That's what we're going to have to wait and see.
Ryan, how was that, buddy? You called it 100% right there. Congratulations. 0.08 of a second quicker. There's nothing in it yet. It's absolutely brilliant stuff. This is exactly what the whole Super Pole format brings to light when it comes to this form of sport.
It definitely is, and I mean that is it's a monster lap, isn't it, from Malinowski? And that car is guaranteed to be on the front row of the grid. It doesn't matter if Jordan Sherritt beats that time or not. The Sidemax Motorworks team will have a car on the front row of the grid, and that's going to be what's most important to them. They started pole at the Real Racing Club 24-hour. They started second at the RCI 24-hour. It did not make a difference come the end of the 24-hour race, but you know what? It's all about pole position here today, and they're currently the provisional pole sitters. But can the local hero, can the local superstar just throw Sidemax Motorworks off their high horse?
Bathurst guys were itching to get Jordan Sherritt at the front. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it there, but he has won out in previous versions of the Solidarity E-Race as well. So this is a man who knows exactly what to do, having had real racing experience as well, both international karting experience and international saloon car experience, local national championship saloon car championship contender as well. So he certainly knows this track well. Now in a sim rig, might be something completely different, but this is certainly a man who could throw a cat amongst the pigeons and put SA at the top. I know I'm shouting out for the South African side of things, but I'm also loving the fact that we have this massive international flavor to this event.
I love it too. And I mean, Jordan Sherritt, he has translated over into the sim racing world incredibly well. He's impressed people locally and internationally with his times. And it will be interesting to see how he stacks up here on the run up to Cheetah. Where does the number 1 GTWR Audi measure up against the likes of Malinowski, Olifant? This is where he's chasing down. So onto the splitter cam, out through Ingwe, and to the line we go. Where does Jordan Sherritt put this car? He's only good enough to go into third place. A 139.909 comes out. So we see the 139s, but you got to be even better than 139s. You got to be 139.7s like Malinowski did.
Malinowski puts it onto pole position in the Audi. Leslie Olifant will be alongside him in the Porsche. It's Audi, Porsche for the first 2 rows with Sherritt and Ensslin alongside each other. That is a really nice little setup there as well. Jordan Sherritt and Ulrich Ensslin have gone at it in previous versions of our Solidarity races, and I'm looking forward to that battle. Wessels making it, 4 out of 5? South Africa at the top there? I don't want to say anything, Ryan, but that looks pretty good, eh?
It does look pretty good, and it is great to see that, that there is so much talent, in the South African scene. I mean, before I had the opportunity to commentate on some RaceFace races alongside George, the South African scene was very alien to me. And, I didn't know many of the names. I didn't know many of the contenders. But, going over there and seeing all these talented names, all these talented drivers, and saying to George, look, you got to get these guys into the international scene. They're quick. They've got something to prove. And, this is going to be a great race. I mean, we're a week away. We have 2 different manufacturers on the front row of the grid. We've got some really, really strong South African talent and international talent lined up for this race. And, well, next weekend can't come soon enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same. Can't wait for that. It's going to be unbelievable stuff. Georgie, from your side of things, it is fantastic to have 4 of the top 5 out of South Africa. Just showing that they've got a little bit of experience, probably more than most at the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit. But that, of course, doesn't count right now. It only counts next week for the next 24 hours from 12 o'clock on Saturday to 12 o'clock on Sunday. They've got to put it all together. They've got to get their strategies right. They've got to ensure that they've got the right teammates who don't fall asleep at the wheel, all that kind of thing, which can happen.
Yeah, it's a long race, a 24-hour race. The Super Pole here, of course, is for pride. It's obviously going to set you up for a good race start, but over the duration of 24 hours, anything can happen. I think that, the way that sim racing has gone, there's just been such a development stage where people have started to take this just more seriously and more seriously. It's always been an emerging scene. I think lockdown last year just highlighted where things can go. And it's just gone from strength to strength, proving that it's not just a little bubble that was popular during the lockdown period, but also just extending out and showing people that there's something to this esport that we love to dedicate our time in commentating and broadcasting for. So I think that we've got a real treat on our hands. I think we've got some amazing talent lined up. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next race weekend. And as far as I understand, we might even have Malinowski available for a cheeky little interview here as well. So I can organize to bring him in if you want, Greg.
I think that's what we need to do. And I think Battis or Nick in the background is going to try and get Leslie Olifant in too. So we've got the top 2 to have a quick chat to. So while you're sorting that out, Georgie, I think I'm going to throw another question out to Ryan. Ryan, yourself, have you ever been involved in one of these as a driver in terms of the endurance factor?
I have indeed. I've been involved in a couple of endurance races. Ended up on the podium and the top step a couple of times myself, and it's tough. It really is. And you can't really explain the amount of work that goes into preparing for races like these. I mean, I did my first ever endurance race was a 24-hour race. It was probably not the way to get into endurance racing. But I tell you what, the amount of planning that goes into it, the amount of preparation that goes into it, the amount of work that you don't expect to put into it, it really is quite astonishing the first time you get into it. But I just can't look at single 1 hour races the same way again. They just don't. They don't give me that emotion, that feeling that I want from an endurance race, and it's one of the reasons I've kind of stopped doing weekly racing so much, and I'm really only interested in the endurance races now, is because the amount of preparation and work that goes into it, it feels that much more special when you do get it right.
George, I'm going to throw the same question to you before we bring Malinowski and Olifant into the studio to have a chat with us. From your side of things, you've done some commentary for endurance races, but from a racer's point of view, have been involved as well with your team in the past?
Yeah, I have been. I mean, when I first got into some racing, I jumped in. Alaric Enslin and I had a little taste together very early on. We did an awesome two-man drive in a Porsche RSR out for a community and R Factor 2. And that kind of where the bug bit. I haven't done too much driving since then. I've obviously recently just shipped all my stuff over to the UK, so I'm still waiting for that to all arrive. But as soon as it's back, I'm going to set up and be ready to do some endurance racing again. So I've also had that bug bite me, and I'm ready to see what else I can do.
Well, I can tell you I've had experience on both, and I'm about to have my first experience in a 24-hour sim race as a commentator. But in the real world, for South African Superbike Endurance Championship 24 hours, as well as for South African Karting Championship 24 hours as well, which I've commentated and raced in both. So we've got a bit of experience in terms of what we need to do here. But more importantly is to bring in our top two. I'm not quite sure who's next got for us first, but when we get into the interviews, we're going to be chatting with the top two there. Malinowski on pole with a 39.7. That's an absolutely amazing lap he put in there. It's only half a second off the qualifying time of 39.2 that was quickest during those qualifying sessions where they had oodles and oodles of time to put those lap times in. So to go and do it under a bit of pressure for Super Pole is always a great effort from the driver. And George, have you got him in studio?
Yeah, we've got Malinowski with us now.
Hello.
Mr. M, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Take us through that lap. The pressure was on because there was only one car who got into the 39s, and that Porsche was staying at the front end for a long time. You were the second last car onto the circuit and eventually got to beat him by only 100th of a second.
The pressure is certainly there, and we felt it. We were on the comms throughout the session with the team. So we felt as a team the pressure immediately when we saw that first time on the board. Because we knew that practice is practice, but then when it comes to it, putting a 39, whatever it is, a 39 on the board will be extremely difficult. But on the lap, I kept it cool, and I'm actually surprised how fast that lap is, because I didn't expect it to be a 0.7. I was thinking throughout the lap maybe it was gonna be 0.8, maybe 0.9, and then I made a mistake on the last corner. Maybe I was there a tenth or maybe less than a tenth on the exit. But I guess I carried a lot of speed throughout the corner. That's why it managed to be a 0.7 that lap. But yeah, I'm still a bit shaking because the pressure on those kind of hot laps is enormous. But now I'm so happy. Sorry?
I said the pressure is now on you and the team to perform because you've kept your record that Ryan has been waxing lyrical about during the commentary, stating the fact that at the previous two rounds of the Kyalami 24-hour, you guys have won both, but you were on the front row for both as well. Now being on pole must be just one step higher, and just puts you into the right frame of mind for next weekend.
The plan is to win, and we made first good step forward. So we're on the front row and on the inside, so that's good. Well, the pressure is on definitely from behind. We have so many fast entries behind, and the competition will be at the highest level. So let's see, it's a 24 hours. We all know that question, how important is qualifying in a 24-hour race. So, at least for the first few hours, we're gonna stay out of trouble, hopefully. We're probably not gonna be in that mix in the first few stints in the midfield when you never know what can happen. Of course, at the front also something can happen, but it's at least a bit safer. And we can just proceed straight away with our race and with our plan. So let's see. It's a 24-hour. Everything can happen.
George, a question from you?
I mean, from my side, I think looking up at Leslie's time, were you expecting one of the South African drivers to get like put pressure on in the 39s, or did you think coming in here that the pressure wouldn't be as high?
Well, we saw the times in the practice servers, and we know drivers in ACC community, and we know what they are capable of, and definitely you guys have a lot of fast drives. So the competition is, like I said, at very high level as everywhere. So we're thinking about this event as seriously as any other. No,
I get that. I mean, it's great to have everybody here. Like you said, ACC community is massive, goes across the globe. There's, it just goes to show, when you put everybody into a field, that's where you start to see just where people are going to measure up. So, Malinowski, it's been so good to chat to you, Greg. I've got Leslie Oliphant ready for an interview now as well. Would you like to just say goodbye to our pole sitter?
Yeah, I think all the very best from all of us here in South Africa. And we look forward to seeing all the action next weekend. Remember, it kicks off at 12 o'clock for our viewers that are watching on the live stream feed on Facebook and YouTube. Malinowski, the man on the front row, and certainly seems to be fired up for next weekend. But let's have a quick chat now to the man in second who held it until the second last lap of anger out there. Les, it's probably a little soul destroying to see it so close into the last two drivers of the Super Pole.
Hello.
Hello, Leslie.
But he's in. Did you hear my question? Do I need to repeat it for you, buddy?
Please repeat it. I don't hear it.
With pleasure. It's great to have you here, by the way. And I just wanted to say a massive effort there from you and the team to put it onto pole right from the outset, go out and be the first car. But I was just saying, it must have been, and I know what it feels like to sit in that hot seat for 8 drivers before you actually got to see whether or not you were going to be outgunned, and then eventually got outgunned. What was it like?
It was nerve-wracking because being out first is not cool. I have to create a benchmark for the guys, so I had to take it a bit easy. Didn't want to invalidate my lap or anything like that, so I was like 95%.
It certainly looked like you were giving it 100%. Ryan, what did you think of Leslie? And have you got a question for him?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have to say, for a banker lap supposedly at 95%, way quicker than anything. I think George and myself could probably manage between the two of us. And
yes, even if you divided our times by 2, maybe, Ryan.
Probably, but I mean, you said there that you weren't too keen on going out first, and it was quite nerve-wracking. But I mean, look, you guys are on the front row of the grid for the race in a week's time, and even if it's not pole position, surely you can take away from a really good Super Pole performance today and carry that into next week.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the performance, but I would have liked pole. Coming out maybe as the 10th driver would have helped a bit. It would have made me push if I saw a good lap time. But not seeing a lap time, I had to just take it easy and make sure. And it paid off in the end. Second is not bad.
I think the front road Kyalami is always where you want to be, Leslie Oliphant, and we wish you all the very best to you and your team. Thanks so much for the participation here, of course. And who's your biggest competition going to come from, Les, next week?
Whew. The top 5 guys I'm really worried about, but yeah, I'm hoping to finish in the top 5 after the 24 hours is finished. So yeah, but I'm going to try for the win. Let's hope we get lucky. I don't know how Jordan's going to manage with a 3-man team for 24 hours.
It's pushing it to the limit there a little bit, isn't it? Les, we wish you all the very best. George, a final word from you to Leslie?
I mean, Les, I've followed you for a long time in the sim racing side of things. I was very proud to see your lap coming up there, especially knowing the drivers that were out here. So, I mean, I don't have too many questions, to be honest. I just wanted to let you know I was proud, and I think you've done the PWSR team proud in what you did today.
Yeah, thank you very much, George. Thank you, guys. Yeah, and thanks for PWSR for being my sponsors.
Well, it's great to have him as part of the event for next week, and of course we've got a lineup of note, gentlemen. I'm suitably now more excited than I ever have been about this event. I mean, the first phone call I got from Ross and the team and Battis telling us that we're going to put a 24-hour together at Kyalami, I was like, yeah, let's do that. He said to me, "Are you interested?" I said, "Let me just think about that." Yes, I am. I think that's exactly what the two of you sort of had in mind when the phone call was made to say, "Listen, we're going to do this," and we're doing it. We're in the middle of it right now, aren't we?
We are indeed. And Greg, I have a last interview as well with Mr. Jordan Sherritt. If you want to have a quick word with him too. So he's here. Les, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll see you next weekend for the 24.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Cheers. Thanks for the event tonight.
Cheers, bud.
Les. Jordy, are you in the house?
I am indeed.
Dude, I got to say, that was a proper good lap and just missing out there for the front row. But of course, your involvement with the e-races we put together and the sim races we put together over the lockdown period, you've had a couple of successes. Sure, you're looking forward to being as successful over 24 hours, but a three-man team, woo, lots of work, buddy.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it was a good lap. I locked up in 2 corners, which obviously hindered me. I was really hoping for the pole, but obviously, great job to Tortellini and Les. They put great laps in, under pressure. That also makes a big difference when you put your laps in like on your one lap. So congrats to them. But yeah, 3-man team, that's gonna be tough, I would say.
Crazy.
I've done it
crazy.
before. I've done a solo 6-hour before, so I think maybe we could probably do this. I don't know.
I've done four solo superbike 24 hours on my own. I know exactly how you feel when you got to do that kind of work, buddy. It's a lot of work out there, so you're definitely going to have your work cut out for you. Ryan, what's your thoughts on that 3-man team, bud?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a challenge for sure. But the GTWR team, they're no slouch. I mean, I know Jordan somewhat as some of our previous adventures out with RaceFace and some of the connections I've got with Racing Club International, but pretty familiar with the GTWR team as well. They did very, very well in SimGrid's World Cup, the very first World Cup. And they didn't do too bad in qualifying for RCI's 24-hour of Kyalami as well. So, going into this thinking, you've got a pretty decent chance, even with a 3-man team. But Jordan, I mean, I guess a question for you would be, how excited are you, I guess, to bring an international audience, I suppose, to probably what is South Africa's biggest sim race?
Yeah, exactly. It's actually quite crazy because there's quite a few international guys watching in the stream, which is actually amazing, and it's what we always wanted in South Africa. So this is a pretty epic start, to something really big and in the future. So yeah, I mean, obviously the best way to do that is to win, as a South African team, in inverted commas, because obviously my teammates are German and Italian. So at least I'm in the team, so hopefully we can bring it. But yeah, it's pretty epic. It's amazing, actually. It's actually pretty incredible. And, I chat to Bertus here and there, and, to have this is, yeah, I'm sure he's even more chuffed, to have this, as well as you, George, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, this was always the dream, George, not just have a little bubble of sim racing just in South Africa, but expand it out and be able to put our best drivers up against the best in the world. I think, it's the start of the progress that we wanted to make. So I'm very stoked on that.
We wish you all the very best for next week, buddy. Try and get lots of sleep over the next 7 days, and we'll see you on the grid next Saturday.
Yep. Cheers.
Cheers,
Thank
Jordan.
So there you have it, guys. We're going to be going into a week now of preparation. Final couple of comments from the two of you. Ryan, what is the preparation that these guys have got to do? I mean, I spoke about getting a lot of sleep, but that was tongue in cheek. What is the prep that these guys will be doing in the next week?
Oh, well, I mean, the prep that they did for this Super Bowl right here, you're probably going to be doing that double, three, fourfold. You're going to want to make sure that you are the sharpest you can be for this race. You're going to have to go through stint planning. You're going to have to go through emergency planning. What happens if there's an accident? Who's going to take over the car? What's going to be the plan? You need to run through so many different situations that can happen over the course of 24 hours. It's an entire day. So much can go right, so much can go wrong, and things going wrong are the things you have to worry about the most. And a lot of these guys, they're going to be having that go through their mind. They're going to be running the laps, running the stints, and just seeing if they can fine-tune the setups anymore. Maybe take off a tenth or two here with some setup refinements, but it's going to be a lot of track time and a lot of planning over the next 7 days for sure.
We spoke about the preparation there that goes into the stint planning, the strategy, etc. From a driver's point of view, and of course, being part of the commentary team next week, we've got young Clark King coming to join us, one of our big finds during the e-races that we had over lockdown as part of our commentary team, an 11-year-old future star in terms of commentary. What's your planning? What are you going to be doing?
I mean, I've just got a lot of driver prep to do, go through all the teams, start to make my notes. I mean, for me, it's all about highlighting the talent that comes through. So I've got a lot of commentary stints as well to be doing. So I think I'll also just be making sure I manage my sleep time appropriately. 24 hours. It's going to be absolutely crazy, Greg. I can't wait to see what we can do. And of course, bringing the broadcast talent, we've got the local guys coming through, like you said, yourself, Clark King. We've got Mike Jones, Jesse Lee from the American side, myself and Ryan Gill from the UK. It's all in teamwork, and I think we got a little bit of prep to do.
You certainly have. I'm looking forward to it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time tonight. Super Pole is now sorted out. We've got Malinowski on the front row alongside Leslie Oliphant. That'll be our front row for next weekend. And of course, we kick things off just before 12 o'clock with the RaceFace Solidarity E-Race Pure Storage Kyalami 24-hour. We'll see you soon. I can't wait for the action that's going to unfold over 24 hours next weekend. Take care then. Bye-bye now.